Are you ready to find the winner of the Pennsylvania Derby? Facts and figures give you the winning edge. I give you the facts, you make the picks. Hi, it's Maura from Trifecta and a little bit extra, and we are talking the G1 Pennsylvania Derby, a mile and an eighth on the dirt for 3-year-olds. We have 11 horses in this race, including the Preakness winner. My horse, Seize the Gray. But before we get into him, let's look at the number 1 horse, Doc Sullivan. Doc Sullivan is trained by Michael Maselli and will be ridden by Jose Ortiz. What you need to know is that in all 9 starts, he's always been on the board. 4 wins, 4 places, 1 show. In his 3-year-old season, he's always been in the exacta with 3 wins and 4 places. However, he's been against New York breds in most of his races. Now let's look back at his last 3 wins. 2 of them were at the mile in an allowance race. He goes to Saratoga and he competes in the Mike Lee Stakes, 7 furlongs. Now it was a muddy track, but he won by 4. His last 2 races have been at the longer distances. However, he's come in second in both of those races. He went to Finger Lakes and competed in the New York Derby, a mile and a 16th on the dirt. He finished strong, only 3/4 lengths behind the leader. Then he goes to Saratoga for the Albany Stakes, a mile and an eighth on the dirt. Again, he finishes strong, 1 length behind the leader. This is a big step up in class for him, and he's going to have to improve his speed. Now let's look at the number 2 horse, my horse, Seize the Gray. And why do I keep calling Seize the Gray my horse? Because I own one teeny tiny share of Seize the Gray through my racehorse. This is the horse I'm going to be cheering for. And if you're a fellow owner and you're at the Pennsylvania Derby, I am so excited for you. Seize the Gray is trained by D. Wayne Lucas. He actually won this race in 2013 with Will Take Charge, and he will be ridden by his regular rider, Jaime Torres. Seize the Gray has 12 starts with 4 wins and 3 shows. His breakthrough race really came on Derby Day at Churchill Downs. He was in the Pat Day Mile and he won that race by 1.25 lengths. He goes on to the Preakness, a mile and 3/16. Now it was a sloppy track, but he went right to the lead and never looked back, winning by more than 2. He then is entered into the Belmont, a mile and a quarter at Saratoga. Again, he goes right to the lead and unfortunately came up empty. In the Jim Dandy, a mile and an eighth at Saratoga, he really wasn't as much of a factor. He was much farther back and again came up empty. At a mile and an eighth, he's never hit the board, but he's by Arrogate, and we know Arrogate progeny should do really well at this distance. What we don't know is, did he just really not like Saratoga? If he gets back to the Preakness speed, which I'm really hoping he does, he's going to be a major factor in this race. He's had 56 days of rest, and I'm hoping C goes right to the lead and never looks back. The number 3 horse, Lonesome Boy, is trained by Hugo Padilla and will be ridden by Adam Bauman. Lonesome Boy has had 13 starts with 3 wins, 2 places, and 2 shows. In his 3-year-old season, he's had 2 wins, both of them on a sloppy track. 1 at 7 furlongs and 1 at a mile and 70 yards. He has run the mile and an eighth in the Wood Memorial. However, he tired and came in 4th. His last race was here at Parx, 6.5 furlongs, and he came in 5th. Unfortunately, this horse looks to be outclassed and lacks the speed. Moving on to the number 4 horse, Timeout. Timeout's an interesting long shot in this race. He's trained by Bill Mott, who's won this race twice, the last time being in 2011, and he'll be ridden by Joel Rosario. Timeout began his career as a 3-year-old. He's had 5 starts with 1 win, 2 places, and 2 shows. He's always on the board. His last 3 races, this distance. He went a mile and an eighth in a maiden race at Belmont at Aqueduct. He dug in and won by a neck. He then goes to the Curlin Stakes at Saratoga. He meets up with the number 8 horse in this race, Unmatched Wisdom. Unmatched Wisdom won that race and Timeout came in 3rd. He then goes down to an allowance race at Saratoga where he digs in again and comes in 2nd. Now he's got really good speed and he's got really good back speed, and that can come in handy if there is a pace meltdown in this race. Also, we know he can go the distance. The number 5 horse, Protective, he's also an interesting horse. He's trained by Todd Pletcher and will be ridden by Irad Ortiz Jr. Protective has had 7 starts with 1 win, 2 places, and 2 shows. In fact, that win was his very last race, a maiden race. He begins his 3-year-old career in a $53,000 maiden race in Tampa. He then goes on to the Wood Memorial, a mile and an eighth, and finishes 3rd. They enter him into the G3 Peter Pan, and he finishes 3rd. He then goes to the Belmont Stakes, a mile and a quarter, and finishes 6th. Todd Pletcher puts him back down to maiden races, and as the 1-9 favorite, he finally finishes 1st. Now, he's got really good speed, and he's got good back speed, but given this history, can he really win this race? Now let's look at the number 6 horse, Just Step On It. Just Step On It is trained by Luis Linder Jr. and will be ridden by Jose Lexcano. He has 11 starts with 3 wins and 3 places. His 3 wins all came in his 3-year-old season, and 2 came at this track. Now, they were at some of the shorter distances, a mile and 70 yards. And 2 of them were $50,000 allowance races. He did go the mile and an eighth when he was entered into the G1 Haskell. In that race, he went 3 wide, dueled, but tired, and came in 4th. He then goes to the Smarty Jones here at Parx, a mile and a 16th. In that race, he took the lead early. He battled to the finish, but he came in 2nd. What did we learn? Well, 1, he really likes Parx. 2, he's got a lot of heart. And 3, his speed ratings are pretty decent. Now let's look at our morning line favorite, the number 7 horse, Dragoon Guard. He's trained by Brad Cox and will be ridden by Florent Giroux. And together, they have a 29% win rate. In fact, this is the team that brought us our Pennsylvania Derby winner from last year, Saudi Crown. Dragoon Guard has had 5 starts with 4 wins and 1 place. In 2024, he is undefeated. Now, if you think that's impressive, he's not only winning, he's winning by 2 to 3 lengths in every race. That's impressive. He begins his 3-year-old season at Keeneland, where in his maiden race, he drew off and he won. He goes to Churchill Downs for an allowance race, where he gets to the lead, wins. Goes to the Indiana Derby, gets to the lead, wins. Goes to the West Virginia Derby, and you got it, gets to the lead, wins. Now, he doesn't need the lead to win. We saw that in his maiden race, but he sure does like it, and the pace projector puts him near the lead. Now let's look at the number 8 horse, Unmatched Wisdom. He's trained by Chad Brown and will be ridden by Flavien Prat. Unmatched Wisdom began his career as a 3-year-old. He's had 4 starts with 3 wins, and those 3 wins have been very impressive. 2 of them at this distance. His first race was Belmont at Aqueduct. It was a mile race on a muddy track, and he wins by 6. He then goes into an allowance race at Belmont at Aqueduct, a mile and an eighth, this distance, and wins by 5. Goes to the Curlin Stakes at Saratoga, a mile and an eighth, wins that race. Now, his last race at Travers, strike through it. He was bumped. He lost his hind wrap. It was like flapping in the wind behind him. He tired, finished 7th, just strike through that race. What we know about Unmatched Wisdom is this. Really good speed ratings, can go the distance, can win at the distance, and he gets Flavien Prat aboard, who is on him for all 3 wins. The number 9 horse is Who is the King, who is trained by Joseph Saffie Jr. and will be ridden by Mike Smith. Mike Smith has had 3 wins in the past 10 years in the Pennsylvania Derby. Who is the King looks to be outclassed in this race. He's only had 1 win, and that was at a mile in a $48,000 maiden race. In his 10 starts, most of his notes say tired and weakened. The number 10 horse is Uncle Heavy. Uncle Heavy is trained by Robert Reed and will be ridden by Michael Sanchez. He's at 8 starts with 3 wins, and 2 of those wins was here at Parx. So he's a bit of a fan favorite here at Parx. Now, both of those wins were as a 2-year-old. Uncle Heavy has had a lot of graded stakes entries. He was in the Withers at a mile and an eighth on a muddy track, and he wins. He then goes to the Wood Memorial, comes in 5th. Goes to the Preakness, no factor, 6th. Goes to the Ohio Derby, no menace, 5th. Then comes back here to Parx for the Smarty Jones, a mile and a 16th, where he finishes 3rd. Now, Uncle Heavy has a really good late kick, so look at him if there's going to be a pace meltdown. Finally, we have the number 11 horse, Stronghold. Stronghold is trained by Phil D'Amato and will be ridden by Antonio Fresu. Stronghold has had 8 starts and 7 times he's in the exacta, with 3 wins and 4 places. His last 6 starts have all been graded stakes races. He was in the Los Alamitos Futurity, where he came in 2nd. He then goes to the Sunland Derby, where he draws away, comes in 1st. Goes to the Santa Anita Derby, a mile and an 8th, digs in 1st. Goes to the Kentucky Derby, where he is near the lead. Now, he floated out wide and came in 7th, but he didn't do poorly. Then he goes to the Indiana Derby, where he meets up with Dragoon Guard. He comes in 2nd, 2 lengths behind the leader. Stronghold, he's a serious contender for this race. That's my preview of the Pennsylvania Derby. I hope to see all my friends in the winner's circle. Go seize the gray. But most of all, sashay away with your money. If you like my channel, like, subscribe, comment, or find me at www.trifectaandextra.com. Cheers!